At the end of the 2024 FNCS Global Championship, Fortnite announced that in 2025, Trios is going to be returning as the main competitive game mode, as well as Siphon being re-added to the game. Trios hasn't been the main FNCS game mode since Chapter 2 in 2021, and since then, the game has changed significantly. So, in this video, I'm going to be going over how you can prepare for Trios in 2025. So, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, there's the matter of actually finding a good trio. Now that the game mode is going to be trios instead of duos, roles are far more important. Last time we had trios, each member of any team had a set role, IGL, Fragger or Tarper. It'll be a bit less concrete than that this time, since the game has competitively evolved so much in the last 3 years, but these roles are still going to be more important than the duos, where they'd basically faded into irrelevancy. The roles being more important in trios comes down to one main factor, which is the fact that having 3 players on a team makes it much more difficult to have a coordinated approach to playing the game out. Each team member can still help to make decisions and suggest what to do in certain situations, but there should be one member on each team, the IGL, who ultimately gets the final call in any situation. This will lead to fewer disagreements, which can be really difficult to handle in trios when compared to duos. This shift toward more regimented roles has recently been made clear by Peterbot's decision to drop Poyo just because he wanted to play with a Tarper.
Like, me and Poyo are split up for trios, chat, and me and Cold are like just gonna play with a Tarper. That's basically what we're doing, chat.
Even though Peterbot and Poyo have undoubtedly been the best duo in the world in the past year. Even though roles are coming back, it's much easier now than it was 3 years ago, because most players have a basic ability to tarp. So one player can learn how to IGL and pick up 2 fraggers, while one of them will be the designated tarper. Another difference between duos and trios is the importance of vibes and chemistry within a team. In duos, it was possible to put up with somebody whose personality didn't exactly go very well with yours, if you're both good players, but this is basically impossible to do when another team member is thrown into the mix. For this reason, it makes it slightly more viable to play with friends in trios than it was in duos. Now, moving on to how you're going to practice for trios. There are 2 main ways you can practice your fighting in trios, one of them being 3v3s in creative. The most popular 3v3 maps right now are box fights and realistics, with both being good options to optimise your fighting skill as a trio. However, realistics are probably the better option because of how similar they are to real game situations. As well as practicing fighting in creative, there's always the option of playing trio ranked, which places you in real game situations with realistic FPS and ping, and allows you to build up the skill of fighting with your trio under pressure. To practice for tournaments more specifically, scrims are the way to go. Scrim servers have already started running trio scrims in preparation for competitive next year, and these are by far the best way you're going to be able to practice for real tournament situations with your trio. As well as practicing, playing scrims together is a good way to determine if your trio is going to be a good fit for you, or if you should find other teammates. So this isn't directly practicing the game, but obviously something you need to be doing is VOD reviewing games from pros. Recently, NA Pro trio scrims have been running, so you could take a look at some VODs from those and see what the pros are doing and how they play in trios, to try to implement some of their strategies into your own games. Next, I'm going to talk about how you should actually be playing the game mode in-game. Obviously, there haven't been any actual trio tournaments yet, so there's no guarantee what trios is actually going to look like in a real competitive setting, and nobody has any idea what the meta is going to be like by the time trio tournaments come around, but there are still a few things which are pretty much 100%. Firstly, tarping is likely to become much more important with the switch to trios, as each team now has the potential to hold up to 4,500 mats rather than 3,000, meaning less need to go for refreshes and more ability to build more reinforced tarps. This tarping only playstyle has often been associated heavily with Chapter 2 and the lower skill level at this point, but it's mainly just down to the lower amount of mats each team has been able to carry since duos became the main game mode. Due to the fact each team has more mats and each team now has 3 players, layers are going to become much more set in endgame. This is cause it's very hard to take a layer from 3 players when compared to 2, and there are going to be fewer teams in the endgame, so each team can pretty much have their own layer. This also means height is going to be more difficult to take later in the game, so going for height early might be the play in trios. One of the most important points I'm going to make in this video, and possibly the biggest difference between duos and trios, is the difference in how you're going to need to be comming. Having 3 people shouting out pointless comms, like 26 on an unknown player in endgame, is not viable for good gameplay, because of all the important information that's going to get lost in the stuff that doesn't need to be said. Before you start playing together, you should be having a discussion with your trio about what specific things you're going to comm and what you're going to leave out, and you should be ensuring that your IGL, whether that's you or your teammates, can always talk over the other players if needed, because ultimately the IGL's comms are going to be the most important. Integral comms that should be made are dead, making sure to specify who on, cracked, Once again, tell your trio which player. If a player is running, say who and where to. Where the trio is rotating, the IGL will make the final call here. And if you found a refresh opportunity in endgame, and say where, whether it's front or back, what skin, and whether it's a solo, duo or trio, then the IGL can decide whether it's worth going for or not. On the other hand, some comms that should be absolutely avoided at all costs are comming less than 50 shields damage on anyone in endgame. This is okay if it's mid-game, because it's important to know all damage for fighting and in surge games. Things like shit-on or full box, because these are just completely unnecessary, and your teammates knowing how the player has died is irrelevant to your game as a team. And the absolute worst thing you can do is fake comming. So like saying 100 after only hitting a 20 tag. It can be tempting to fake comm, especially after watching pros because they do it so much, but it's so misleading and could easily lead to your trio's death. So, I hope you've taken something from that video that can help you to prepare for the upcoming year of competitive Fortnite, and I wish you the best of luck in finding a trio and in FNCS when January comes around. I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.